Welcome, ladies, to the Women in Tech during COVID-19, brought to you by MTN and CISCO in partnership with Brainstorm. I'm so glad to have everybody on board today. We are facing such a difficult year. 2020 has had its ups and downs. And as women in leadership, we've had so many struggles, and we are right at the forefront of this pandemic.
I do think that all of us in the sector we're in this ICT telecom sector, we still living in quite a man's world, but it's up to us to change that, and it's up to us to drive the change. And I think we need to have each other's back more than we do. But I think that's starting to change in the workplace.
We've been the choir who's been preaching for such a long time that advent of the fourth industrial revolution is now here. All these exciting technologies around IoT, cybersecurity, big data, AI, robotics. And I think these things became sort of buzzwords without people fully embracing and understanding what they would deliver. And of course, along comes COVID. I like the joke that's making the rounds on social media saying it's not the CEO or the CIO or the CFO or any of us clever people who actually ensured the acceleration of the digital explosion. It was actually COVID. I think also we must not underestimate the amount of stress that especially women take on. So at CISCO, we have something called Day Off for Me.
A lot of long nights, but by virtue of being a woman, you have, in fact, I don't even think it's fair to call it a triple shift. It's more like 5 shifts at a time, because you had your kids, if you have children, who also needed to transition to online learning, right? And at the end of the day, when you're home, you're still feeding people, you have to cook, you're still a homemaker if you're married, if you've got partners. So unfortunately, you're not just focusing on work.
The homeschooling has been a really big struggle to get these kids. I mean, I have 2 10-year-olds, and getting boys to get on board when things change. Yeah, but listen, you jump in and you figure it out and you get on top of it as soon as possible.
How do you monitor without having 21 applications or systems that you're linked into? And due to COVID and the non-visibility, you've got more complexity in the type of issues that you're dealing with, because in essence, for the first time, you're working blind.
I honestly loved the chat feature, because as a meeting is going on, we can always post our questions and even raise your hand as well.
I've had to also look at how I communicate. What are the words that I use? How do I go and think of, I've got an employee who's sitting at home in an environment that's like this, experiencing load shedding, etc. How do I motivate that individual?
Unfortunately, technology sometimes, yes, we get disconnected, but that's where we need to also understand that we're relying more on our networking infrastructure.
We're all thinking positively and looking ahead, and we can just have some faith at the moment, and hopefully something, changes.
Because I've often thought, from having a massive revenue stream, you've now got a zero revenue stream, and how do you survive? And I mean, it's nice to hear about the different industries, because we tend to come from an ICT perspective all the time, whereas now we're actually hearing about the industries that you're in.
We come with our own expertise and sit down and say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm looking for, and let's support each other from that angle.
This time is literally testing who we are as people. So it's building a lot of resilience and a lot of character.
So I'm going to do introspection as well to understand, how do I show up as a better human for other women to make sure that all of us win, because all of us can win.
Everywhere you go, MTN.